Hello guys, what's going on? This is Teacher Leo. I hope you're fine. So let me tell you that today we wanna uh, learn more about models. In this case, we're gonna learn uh, can and have to. You can check it on your book on page number 64. So please now pay attention and we're gonna start now.
Alright guys, how you can see in this picture we have can and have to. I'm going to explain you can first and later have to, right? In the way that you can understand this lesson without problems, right? So you can find this picture on page 64 of your top-notch book, right? So now we're gonna start with can. How you can see it says that we use can plus the best form of a verb. It is for a possibility, right? So now I'm going to show you um, how you can use can for affirmative statements, negative statements, and questions, right? Okay, guys, how you can see we use can for possibilities or abilities, right? So in this case we use can plus the base form of a verb and the complement, right? So if you can see in this chart, um, we have the subject that is I, you, he, she, it, we, and they, right? So later we use can. In this case, we use can for all the pronouns, right? Also, we use the verb in the base form. How you can see it says I can play, I can eat, you can play, you can eat, you can talk, or something like that, right? He can play, he can eat, he can talk, right? Remember that we use can plus the base form of the verb, right? For example, here that says we can take the train to Chicago, right? Now, for affirmative form, can comes after the subject and before another verb. It was the sentences that I mentioned before, right? In this case, we have I can play soccer. We can stay out late tonight. There are no classes tomorrow. He can talk French, right? Okay, this is for affirmative statements. Now I'm going to explain you for negative statements. Okay, for negative form, we have two uh, options, right? We can use can't or cannot. I'm going to explain you can't first, right? So remember that we don't use don't, doesn't, or didn't with can't. For example, if I want to say something negative, I'm going to say I can't believe you say that, right? We are unable to say I don't can't believe you say that, right? This is incorrect. The correct form is I can't believe you say that or I cannot believe you say that, right? So for when we use cannot, it is for formal context or when we want to emphasize something, right? For example, I cannot speak French. It is the same if I say I can't speak French, right? This is for negative form, right? Okay, now for questions, you just need to remember that the subject and can change the position to form questions. In this case, we don't use do, does, did, or something like that when we want to make questions, right? In this case, we can say, for example, can this really be true? This is the correct form. We can say, does this can really be true? Okay, remember that we can say this, so in this case, this sentences is incorrect, right? So we have here more examples with can in questions, right? For example, um, can I eat some pizza? Can you hear me? can he play the guitar? So how you can see in the example, can gonna be in the first letter the subject, then the verb in the base form, right? Please don't forget it. So this is the forms that you can use can. Remember that can is for abilities or possibility, right? So now I'm going to show you how you can use have to um, in sentences, right? So we use have to for obligations, right? So how you can see, we have here one chart with the pronouns affirmative, negative, and questions, right? There are the different forms that we can use have to. The structure for have to is the next. We use the pronoun plus have to or has to plus the base form of a verb, right? Remember that we use have for I, you, they, and we use has for he, she, and it, right? Please don't forget it. So when we're talking about affirmative statement using have to, we have here the for example that says, I have to work tomorrow. You have to get up early. She has to work at night. Um, she has to take her medicine. Also, we have they have to play tomorrow. We have to pay attention, right? This is for affirmative. Now, for negative statement, we use the pronoun, then we use one auxiliary verb. In this case, we use don't or do and does, but in negative, right? In this case, uh, it could be don't or doesn't, right? Remember that we use do for I, you, they, and we, and does for he, she, and it, right? So, for example, I don't have to work tomorrow. You don't have to get up early. He doesn't have to work at night. In this case, how you can see here, you use have, um, and you don't have to use has. Why? Because you are using an auxiliary verb. In this case is does, right? Do you remember this rule that when you're using does in a sentences, you use um, the base form of the verb, right? So in this case, we have another example that says she doesn't have to take her medicine, right? Also, we have he don't have to play tomorrow, or they don't have to play tomorrow, sorry, or we don't have to pay attention, right? So now when we are talking about questions, in this case, we use again the auxiliary verb. The structure is the auxiliary verb plus the pronoun plus have to and the complement, right? So in this case, we have, do I have to work tomorrow? Do you have to get up early? In this case, how we use does for he, she, and it, we use again have to, right? We use this and not has to, right? So, for example, does he have to work at night? Does he have to take her medicine? Um, do they have to play tomorrow? And do we have to pay attention, right? So um, these are, yeah, we have here all the forms that we can use have to for affirmative statements, negative statements, and questions, right? Remember that if you use do or does, when you use does for he, she, and it, we use have to, right? It is for negative and questions. Now, for affirmative, when we use um, he, she, or it, we use has to, right? So thank you for your attention, guys. This is all for today. Remember that if you have any questions, you can write us. Don't be hesitate to contact us. We are more than glad to help you, and see you the next time. Bye, guys.